I watched my friend get shot in the neck. Yeah, that's what happened. I just want to say that he was publicly executed again before the world. The question is why, right?
Charlie Kirk told friends he feared for his life, and just days later, he was gone on stage. We're not talking about a random act of campus violence or a tragic case of someone being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was a public figure who warned people he felt targeted, and then, on September 10th, at Utah Valley University, while launching what was supposed to be the next chapter of his career, the so-called American Comeback Tour, he was struck down in front of a live audience. The shot hit him in the neck. He was 31, a father of two, and one of the most polarizing voices in the conservative youth movement. Just hours after the chaos, local police held a press conference, naming a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson as the shooter. But almost instantly, what should have been a straightforward criminal case splintered into a high-profile storm of accusations, denials, and conspiracy theories about the Stormfinns and subsequent experience.
And he was publicly executed. I want to make that clear. Charlie Kirk was publicly executed before the world. And as we are all searching for answers, the ones that are being supplied to us are not making a lot of sense. And some people, I would say, are speaking too much, are speaking on behalf of other people.
We watched the official story fracture almost in real time. While Utah authorities said the evidence pointed to a lone gunman, one of Kirk's closest former allies, Candace Owens, lit up social media in her own podcast with a very different claim. According to Owens, the FBI was forcing Utah police to call it a lone gunman case, shutting down any wider investigation, pressing to force the case closed. It wasn't just a matter of police procedure for her, it was, she said, a coordinated move to keep the public from digging any deeper. We've all seen fast investigations before, but the speed and certainty with which law enforcement rushed to frame this as an isolated crime immediately put both sides of the internet on edge. Within the first 24 hours, it was obvious that Kirk's passing wouldn't stay in the realm of local news. Instead, it became political chaos. And unlike your usual cable news shouting match, this chaos was fueled by the people who actually knew Kirk, who'd shared microphones and green rooms with him, and who now suddenly stood to gain or lose power depending on where the blame landed. The fight for the narrative wasn't just about justice. It was about who would take control of a movement in freefall.
Just go, okay, I'm just going to accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. We can't allow that to happen here. I won't allow that to happen here because this something terrible has traumatized the world, okay? And I feel as though when it comes to this, the media, the government, the talking heads, everyone is confusing us about what actually took place.
But to really understand why Charlie Kirk thought his life was in danger and why the fingers started pointing in so many directions, we have to go back to his final week alive. That's when, according to multiple insiders and a handful of furious podcast hosts, Kirk attended a now infamous intervention in the Hamptons. Allegedly, billionaire Bill Ackman confronted him over his shifting stance on Israel. This is where the drama veers from your average activist drama into something that feels more like a political thriller. Insiders told the press that the event turned threatening, not physically, but in terms of career pressure, donor money, and, if you believe Owens, outright intimidation. As soon as Owens brought up the Hamptons story, Ackman snapped back. Publishing text messages, he said, proved he and Kirk had a cordial friendship. He went out of his way to insist, "At no time have I ever threatened Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, or anyone associated with him." Netanyahu himself, yes, the Israeli prime minister, jumped in with a denial, calling the rumor insane. If you're wondering why leaders of major countries are stepping in to publicly deny even the hint of involvement in a U.S. activist tragedy, well, you're not alone. The harder these denials came, the more it looked to some like a coordinated effort to slam the door shut.
And I want to be very clear that I believe, in fact, I know that towards the end, Charlie was fighting for custody of himself. I want to say that. I want to say that plainly, and there are lies that are being told and they need to be slapped down right now.
Meanwhile, inside the organization Kirk built from nothing, the mood was mutinous. Turning Point USA, his signature vehicle for campus conservatism, suddenly had no leader and, by all accounts, no roadmap. The moment the news broke, the power struggle began. One camp was made up of Owens loyalists who argued Kirk had been targeted for refusing to toe the line on Israel. The other group quickly lined up behind Tucker Carlson, J.D. Vance, and a rotating list of media personalities who, let's be honest, saw opportunity in the chaos. It wasn't subtle. Carlson took the stage at Kirk's memorial and, in a line that ricocheted across the internet, compared Kirk's fate to that of Jesus, muttering about a group eating hummus, plotting to silence him. Jewish groups called it blood libel. That didn't stop the quote from going viral or Carlson's crowd from eating it up. The public feud didn't end with Carlson. Kirk's own pastor took to social media, rebuking Owens and begging her to stop fueling rumors. According to him, Kirk never entertained gossip or innuendo about Owens, even after their own falling out. This only added fuel to the speculation. If even Kirk's inner circle was fracturing so quickly, who exactly could benefit from stirring the pot?
The fallout from Charlie Kirk's killing has spread to the workplace. People are getting fired for comments that seem to celebrate or glorify the assassination of the MAGA activist and father of 2 young children.
But this wasn't just a war of words. We saw the true stakes emerge in the days that followed. Kirk's podcast soared to #1 on the charts, despite, or maybe because of, the uncertainty. With every new episode, a different right-wing ally took the mic. First Tucker, then Glenn Beck, then J.D. Vance himself, who used his guest appearance to promise a crackdown on far-left groups, saying he'd dismantle them in Kirk's name. Joe Rogan, that unofficial referee of the culture wars, at first kept quiet, supposedly off in the wilderness hunting elk, but once he weighed in, he started poking holes in the lone shooter narrative, calling the story horse nonsense and asking the questions that had been bubbling up on every subreddit. How did an untrained 22-year-old get onto the roof in broad daylight? Why did the shooter's outfit not match Robinson's? And why, less than a week after the event, was there construction happening at the crime scene?
You're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
The rumors, fueled by Owens and amplified by an entire industry of internet commentators, didn't stop at logistical questions. Owens alleged, without presenting hard proof, that Kirk told her directly he was being threatened not just by Ackman, but by the Israeli government itself. According to her, Kirk felt cornered. His organization offered a massive infusion of pro-Israel money, which he refused, and shortly after, the walls started closing in. Ackman, for his part, didn't just deny ever making such offers. He publicly aired his digital receipts, trying to stop the rumor before it could get traction. Netanyahu issued a pair of statements, each more exasperated than the last, denouncing what he called outrageous allegations. All these denials, stacked up, shouted down, and circulated like chainmail, seemed less about clarity and more about controlling the narrative before it spun even further out of their hands. The effect, though, was the opposite. Every denial sparked new questions. The podcast world ran wild, spinning stories that ranged from a vast Israeli conspiracy to a federal cover-up to, inevitably, a Chinese Communist Party plot. Opportunists seized on the confusion. Laura Loomer blamed a trans terror cell, Steve Bannon suggested Chinese money, and Trump himself accused the radicals on the left. With no clear facts and too many egos in the room, the blame game became its own brand of sport. Within Turning Point, insiders painted a picture of chaos. Owens was the lightning rod, accused by some of exploiting Kirk's tragedy to push her own agenda. Former staffers claimed her ties to Kirk had frayed long before his tragedy, that her conspiracy theories had grown too wild even for an organization built on viral outrage. Eric Bolling, a board member and ex-Fox News anchor, told one podcast Kirk and Owens had a break up over her views, calling them just a little bit too down the rabbit holes. But it's hard to find anyone in this mess without an angle. Bolling also took Ackman's side, while Owens called the Post an outfit of the Mossad, dragging yet another billionaire into the digital mud.
All right, you guys, we're going to jump right into this with no introduction. There's a lot that I would like to speak with you guys about. Can't wait to hear your feedback. A lot of lies that are being put out there, narratives that I would say are half-truths or just misrepresentations entirely.
And while the drama unfolded in the open, new facts kept seeping out. Local authorities said Robinson had refused to cooperate, not even confessing to the act, leaving the motive wide open. Robinson's own roommate, described by the Utah governor as a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female, cooperated fully with the investigation, reportedly shocked by the turn of events. Even so, the press latched onto the detail, weaving it into the already overloaded web of motive, ideology, and internet-driven radicalization. Governor Cox said Robinson's ideology was very different than his conservative family, with friends pointing to a deep, dark internet culture fueling his beliefs. The governor's repeated warnings about conflict entrepreneurs hacking our brains with outrage started to sound less like platitudes and more like firsthand reporting.
You get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry, and you
His boyfriend is a
talk to him on
furry?
Discord. I think he's a furry.
Is
I don't
that
want
a-
to disrespect.
I don't know if that's a
He's
real
definitely
thing.
His boyfriend's definitely a guy who became a girl.
And wears furry stuff.
I think they do furry sex. Or furry games, excuse me. My apologies.
Meanwhile, investigators kept hinting at clues that only deepened the mystery. They found bullet casings at the scene inscribed with bizarre messages, memes, and political slogans, some referencing anti-fascist themes, others just pure trolling. Prosecutors released text messages sent between Robinson and his roommate, messages that Candace Owens instantly declared were so federally written that only a government agency could have strung them together. She insisted there was a federal level of corruption and conspiracy in play, egged on by Rogan and other podcasters who, while refusing to jump into the deep end of Owens' theories, seemed to delight in how little sense any of it made. As if to underscore the power vacuum, the media turned the Turning Point Memorial into a reality show of its own. There were prayer vigils at the Kennedy Center and stadium-sized memorials in Arizona, each featuring a parade of politicians desperate to link themselves to Kirk's legacy. Vice President J.D. Vance hosted an episode of The Charlie Kirk Show, crediting Kirk with helping him become vice president. The White House press secretary declared Kirk's organizing fueled Trump's win, as if his entire public life had always been a straight shot to historical importance. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the real struggle was for the future of Turning Point, and nobody seemed to know who was in charge.
Toast. But she didn't call for war. Erika did not call for war. In fact, she did the exact opposite, which is what was so stunning. It was unbelievable. The forgiveness that she granted, the strength that it took for her to call for that forgiveness, it's just unmatched, and it really made a difference. And I was being serious when I tweeted that I think it was the most consequential speech in American history.
While the world's attention bounced from podcast to press conference, inside the organization, alliances shifted by the hour. Some circled Owens, betting that her ability to draw attention, even negative, would keep the brand alive. Others campaigned for the safer, more controlled hands of Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, hoping to steer the group away from conspiracy and back toward mainstream influence. But with every new accusation, every fresh denial, it became clearer that the questions wouldn't go away just because the suspect was sitting in a jail cell. By the time Tyler Robinson sat behind bars, it wasn't clear who had caused the tragedy that took Charlie Kirk from that stage, but it was painfully clear who stood to gain. And that's when the story stopped being about a tragedy and started being about a takeover. Within a week, the cover-up rumors took on a life of their own. It wasn't just Candace Owens tossing out wild possibilities for attention. It was the drumbeat of new evidence hitting feeds, voice notes from anonymous sources, and viral clips of Owens insisting the FBI was protecting someone they want to keep safe. She pushed it relentlessly, alleging pressure from above, saying the federal case against Tyler Robinson was just a smokescreen to shelter the real architect. But the facts, as always, were slippery. There was no proof. Just whispers, digital breadcrumbs, and an endless supply of confident voices telling us to trust nothing and question everything.
Conservative activists, Republican lawmakers, and even a doxing website are flagging the comments in what critics say is a campaign to punish those posters.
We saw how quickly the vacuum filled. J.D. Vance, now vice president, announced he would step in to host The Charlie Kirk Show. A tribute, he said, but to plenty of listeners, it felt like a calculated move. In the background, the business machine powered up. Turning Point's college tour was back on the road within days, now featuring a carousel of celebrity guest hosts and a fresh batch of Commemorate Kirk merchandise. New shirts, new slogans, new ticket prices. Every prayer sounded like a business pitch, and every vigil doubled as a recruitment drive. Insiders muttered that the rush to honor Kirk's legacy looked a lot like a battle for his mailing list. Meanwhile, the public stage became a gladiator pit. Carlson, who never saw a funeral he couldn't turn into an airing of grievances, doubled down in front of mourners. He blamed a group eating hummus for Kirk's fate, igniting a firestorm online and fueling the theory that Israeli interests had a hand in the tragedy. It didn't matter that most mainstream conservatives scrambled to extinguish the rumor. Each pushback only poured more gas on the blaze. I was shocked and sickened by the reaction of the ghoulish and really repulsive reaction of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to Charlie's tragedy, Carlson raged. He accused Netanyahu of hijacking Charlie's memory and using it to advance his own agenda. Words that, for many, sounded like the starting gun for a new feud. The referee was gone. Nobody was playing nice.
But I think there's an irony here. My take on this, there's an irony. Harvey has made his career on busting celebrities that lie when they're arrested, and then this video, that video, this person, that person, and then they bust them. They go, no. Here's what really happened.
That's right.
And now Harvey's in the middle of it, right there, busted, and sitting there in front of the spotlight, the same way he puts celebrities and other people in front of the spotlight.
Ackman, never shy about wading into a brawl, called Owens' stories slander and posted screenshots to prove his innocence. Predictably, the denials just made things worse. Every time Ackman hit send, new threads unraveled. Was it damage control or panic? Was the billionaire overcompensating or just genuinely infuriated? We saw this in real time. The harder he tried to close the door, the more people pressed their faces against the glass. For a moment, it felt like all of conservative media was eating its own. But then the official investigation managed to be even more confusing than the circus outside. With Robinson refusing to say a word, no confession, no explanation, everyone started inventing motives to fill the silence. Prosecutors revealed that bullet casings at the scene had been etched with cryptic anti-fascist slogans and meme references, muddying the waters further. Was Robinson radicalized online or simply trolling? Was it an ideological act or just a sick joke? The answer, as always, depended on which channel you tuned into. All the while, Kirk's loyalists split into rival camps. Some rallied behind Owens, convinced there was a shadowy international plot and that only a real investigation could reveal it. Others begged for calm, echoing Kirk's pastor and urging restraint. A handful, burned by the fallout, left Turning Point altogether, calling the whole organization craven opportunism dressed up as activism. Even longtime allies couldn't agree on what was real and what was smoke. Podcasts, blogs, live streams, every platform became a courtroom, and every former friend turned into a potential witness for the prosecution or the defense.
Not he's even the guy who shot him. Maybe he thought he was going to shoot him. Maybe he's a patsy. Maybe he did it.
I feel like he's a plant. Did you see the video? Did you see the person doing the investigating on his mom's Facebook?
No.
You haven't seen this? Have you seen that, Jamie? Some dude online.
His mom's got a weird Facebook. I spill coffee.
Very trippy. It doesn't make any sense.
The confusion reached a fever pitch as Robinson's family and friends came forward, painting a picture of someone who'd gone from high-achieving student to internet recluse in just a few years. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox described Robinson's ideology as very different than his conservative upbringing and flagged his time spent on the deep, dark internet as a possible factor. The roommate, described in press conferences as a partner transitioning from male to female, gave full cooperation and was reportedly shocked by the event. All these details did nothing to calm speculation. Instead, they gave fuel to every fringe theory about radicalization, secret messages, and inside jobs.
Like, the more they keep looking into it, the more they're like, this doesn't feel like a real... It feels super fabricated.
But here's the thing. Just like I was talking about when people are arguing on social media, it's all part of the plan.
Meanwhile, Owens and Rogan hammered the same question. How does a nobody with no military background pull off a sniper attack at a high-security event, slip out unnoticed, and leave behind a trail of clues straight out of a conspiracy thriller screenplay? No single theory fit all the facts. Not that it mattered. Every theory was profitable, every contradiction got clicks, and every new guest host found a way to link their pet issue to the Kirk saga. But the rumors wouldn't fade away. On X, former Turning Point insiders hinted that Kirk had grown paranoid in his final weeks, convinced he was being watched after rejecting a large donation with strings attached. Some said he'd become convinced that his own board wanted him gone. Others, just as cynically, wondered aloud if the whole thing was a smokescreen, an elaborate bit of theater to transfer control while distracting the base with endless drama. Through all the noise, one question kept coming up in comment threads and DMS. Did Kirk know something that made him dangerous, or was he simply the latest casualty of a culture addicted to outrage?
If you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of, if you're going to kill a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky shit that doesn't make any sense and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it out in the woods. You do a bunch of shit like that.
With every new twist, trust eroded. The public stopped believing official statements. Every denial sounded pre-scripted. Every tribute felt transactional. We watched as Kirk's memory became the ultimate currency, traded, exploited, and used as cover for 1,000 micro-wars over money, ideology, and influence. The man who built a movement around exposing the truth may have been destroyed by it. And as his allies profit from his memory, the question that once haunted Charlie Kirk now haunts everyone around him. Who wanted him silenced, and why are they still winning? What do you think really happened behind the scenes, and who do you trust to tell the truth? Drop your theory in the comments, and remember, in a world where everyone's an insider, nobody's safe. Stay skeptical, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.